everyone, I'm MaryAnn. I'm a visual artist and voice coach from Singapore, currently in Singapore, and welcome to another installment of my weekly vlog series, Live Your Dream. So this is where I share what I have learned and am learning in my journey of pursuing my dreams, of going after something that really matters to me, of creating a worthy and meaningful purpose for myself. And there is so much that I have learned in this journey, and I feel that part of the journey too is for me to share whatever I'm learning and what I'm realizing as a way of also inspiring and encouraging and motivating you guys who are on the same kind of journey in pursuing your dream. Because this is one of the most difficult things that you are going to do in your life. Making your dream come true is going to be so challenging, not so much because the dream is challenging. I mean, everything that we do in life has its challenges, but more so because when there's something that we really, really want and it's something that really matters to us, everything inside us would arise to stop us from going after it because the stakes are so much higher if we fail. Or there might even be a fear that if that dream actually comes true, then what? Like, my whole life will change, my whole existence as I know it would change. There will be a huge shift in reality because something that you thought was impossible has now become possible. And what then? So we have a lot of fears around leaving our comfort zone, and manifesting your dream actually requires you a lot of times to leave that comfort zone. And when the dream actually comes true, that also means that you have left the comfort zone. And where we are now in that comfort zone, it's really hard to imagine what that would look like. So there's a lot of fear of uncertainty and fear of the unknown. And that's why this is a difficult journey. And also when you are surrounded by people who will tell you that your dreams are not practical, you should just get a job like everyone else and get married like everyone else and start a family like everyone else and just, be like everyone else. And that really doesn't work either, because every single one of us is on a unique path. Every single one of us has a life that only you can live, and that's why I'm here to share all these things. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, or you can also directly message me through any one of my social media links, which are in the write-ups attached to these videos. So earlier on, I talked about how we are basically in our comfort zone and we don't know what lies outside of it, and we wouldn't know what lies outside of it until we actually go there, basically, because otherwise you are just inside that comfort zone and looking at that world around you. And because you're not actually out there in that world around you, you don't have a clear understanding of what that reality is. It's basically like, if let's say you are a frog and you live in this pond, and all you know is this pond, and when you are sitting on your lily pad, right, you're looking at the ground around the pond, and you go like, oh, there's like all these interesting plants, and maybe one day you decide that you're gonna go leave that pond and go explore what are the plants around it. And it's only and before you get out there to go and explore those plants, all the only data that you have is whatever you can see from your lily pad. Or maybe you get brave enough to go to the edge of the water and you start taking a closer look at those plants. And the comfort zone that we have, every single one of us has a comfort zone in every single area of our life. And we have that because in a way it is kind of like a self-protective mechanism, because when we're growing up, we have to learn how to survive in this world. And a lot of times learning how to survive is a whole process of trial and error, where because you make mistakes, or because you try something and it fails, or because someone told you you shouldn't do that and you should do this instead, and we didn't know any better, so we just followed the advice that we were given. And a lot of it was really out of a need to protect ourselves, because that is a very essential part of our survival. So nothing wrong with your comfort zone, because it is there for a reason, and it has a function in protecting you, basically. I mean, it was formed around you needing to learn how to protect yourself. So that's totally normal. The part that actually stops us is when we decide that the comfort zone is everything that we need. It's when we decide that this is all that there is to life. It's when we think that I'm quite happy being here in my pond and I'm just gonna stay here in my pond. I mean, there's so much to see and do already in my pond. Why do I have to venture outside, and go and see what kind of other creatures live outside of the plants and outside of the pond? And who knows, if I venture out, maybe I'm gonna get eaten because my great 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 grandfather, that's what happened to him. He ventured outside of the pond and he got eaten, and so for generations the advice that was passed down to us was that never leave the pond. um, and so a lot of times this happens in our lives. Okay, we hold on to these the survival mechanism of it, and we decide to stay in the comfort zone, and we have a lot of speculations about what's happening outside of there, but we don't actually know the reality of it until we actually take that step outside of that comfort zone. And it is a really scary thing because, for one, there's the fear of the unknown. We don't know what would happen once we go outside of it. And then there's also the scary thing where we don't know if maybe after we do that we will no longer be the same person. And so, change is kind of a scary thing too. And especially if you are surrounded by many other frogs who insist that you shouldn't leave the pond, then it becomes even more difficult for you to actually leave the pond. So that's the reality of the world we live in. Anyway, the only way to grow and expand, the only way that you're going to make your dream come true, whatever that dream is, sorry to tell you this, well, not really sorry to tell you this, but the truth of the matter is that you gotta leave the pond. You gotta venture outside of your comfort zone. It is unavoidable. And not so much because you're trying to put yourself in danger, but more so because a lot of times what we perceive as something unsafe, which is outside our comfort zone, is oftentimes not the reality at all. It's oftentimes just our perception, which is created by whatever things that we have been told, like the other, your great 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 grandfather frog who got eaten when he left the pond, and everyone else knows that story, and so nobody leaves the pond. So yeah, it's only when you take that step outside of that comfort zone, then you can start to see a new reality. Then you can start to see something different. Then you gain a new perspective. Then you gain a new understanding about yourself. Then you build your courage as well, because people who are brave, it's not so much because they naturally are brave and daring. I mean, some people might be, I don't know. But I think it's more so because they understand that there is this fear within them, but they are not allowing that fear to hold themselves back. And at the same time, usually they have a sense of curiosity as well, that I wonder what's out there. And the only way I would know for sure is to go and check it out. And it's a very scary thing to do that, but they do it anyway. And they face that fear. And after they face that fear, they realize that there was really nothing to be afraid of, that the fear was just all built up within them and built up in their minds. Like the frog on the lily pad looking at the shore and thinking that, if I step there, I'm going to get eaten. And then when he finally gets to the shore and steps onto it and nothing happens, it's like, wait a minute. Or maybe he steps on the shore and nothing happens. He takes a few more steps and nothing happens. He takes a third step and then a bird swoops down to want to eat him. And then he manages to get a spear or something and fight the bird off. And then the bird freaks out and is like, okay, I'm never messing with this frog again. Basically, the bird got traumatized by that event and flies away. And so now the frog has this new reality that, what? Maybe I would get eaten if I leave the pond. But now I realized that I can actually defend myself with my spear. And so as a result, for this frog, his comfort zone has expanded. He's able now to leave the pond, at least for 5 steps, with his spear. And that's part of the process of learning too. If you don't leave your comfort zone, you're not going to know what is it that you need to learn. You're not going to know what kind of skills you need to equip yourself in order to deal with what is out there. And if you want to make your dream come true, if you want to pursue something that really matters to you, you're going to have to take many steps like that. You're going to have to venture outside of what's comfortable and what's known to you, venture into unknown territory, because that's the process that everyone has to go through when we learn a new skill, when we discover a new anything in life, when you start a new job or you work in a new industry. whatever it is, you have to be a beginner at some point. And the first step is leaving that comfort zone, and then after that is also figuring out what are the dangers that are there, because there are dangers. I mean, there's dangers even in the pond that you live in. You know, you could get infected by, maybe the water gets polluted one day and you get infected and you die too. I mean, it's the reality of the world, right? There's always dangers everywhere. But if you don't leave the pond, you don't learn what these other dangers are, and you don't equip yourself with the necessary skill sets to continue protecting yourself. And of course, you know, with your dream, it's not just about protecting yourself, it's also about advancing yourself. How do you grow yourself with the necessary things that you need to learn in order to fulfill that dream, whatever it is? So what I'm saying today is that, you know, whatever that comfort zone is for you, like, start challenging it in some way. And it doesn't even need to be a huge thing in the direction of your dream. It can be as simple as, like, you know, you go to your favorite restaurant and you order something else other than your usual favorite dish, or decide that, you know, you're gonna have brunch at a different restaurant today, or even just going to a place that you normally wouldn't go to. Like, if you're normally not a hiker, maybe tomorrow will be a great day to go hiking instead of, you know, your usual activities on a day off. For example, like watching Netflix, maybe going hiking would give you a new perspective on yourself and on life. Well, it definitely will if it's not something you're used to. And then of course, you know, it's also about cultivating that awareness of what is happening within us as we go through the whole process of leaving the comfort zone, discovering what is out there, discovering what we need to equip ourselves with so that we can better navigate the unknown territory outside of the pond that we live in. And then slowly over time, the more you get used to leaving that comfort zone, the more it starts to expand. So from that 5 steps onto the shore, you start to maybe develop better weapons so you can fight off the other predators that want to eat you as a frog. And yeah, and you know, maybe you develop more sophisticated weapons, I don't know, or a robot that would help fight for you, or maybe you manage to get a bunch of your friends to go together so that you can support each other through whatever challenges lie ahead. Who knows? But if you never ever leave that pond, if you never take that first step outside of your comfort zone, then you never know what is waiting up ahead around the corner for you to discover, and for you to grow, and for you to navigate, and for you to get one step closer to your dream life, whatever that is for you. So if you have enjoyed today's video, subscribe to my channel on YouTube, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, or you can also directly message me through any one of my social media links, which are in the write-ups attached to these videos. And I will see you next week.